3,000 years ago, someone ground a lens that shouldn't exist. It sits today in a quiet drawer inside the British Museum, a flat oval of clear rock crystal, smaller than a coin. It is about 4 centimeters across, worn smooth and slightly cloudy with age. One face is flat, the other ground into a smooth curve. The curve is not random, it is deliberate and even. That gentle curve is the entire mystery. Because a curved, polished crystal is a lens, and a lens can bend light and magnify. Assyrian hands shaped it around 750 BC, centuries before anyone was supposed to understand optics. The science of lenses was not written down for 2,000 more years. The story begins in the ruins of a lost city. In 1845, a British digger named Laird arrives in Iraq. He digs into a mound that locals have avoided for generations. He is hunting the vanished palaces of Assyria. Under a low hill, he uncovers the halls of Nimrud. Carved stone lions and winged guardians emerge from the sand. This was Kalhu, a royal capital of the Assyrian kings. His workers pull out ivories, seals, and worked gold. Crate after crate of wonders leaves the ruins. Then among the treasure, one strange, clear object. A worn piece of rock crystal, ground perfectly oval. Nobody there knows what it is for. It is boxed, shipped to London, and shelved. For decades it lies quietly among Assyrian relics. Just a curious pebble in a case of greater treasures. Then someone finally holds it up to the light. Guess what this crystal does before I show you? A jeweler? A fire? A spyglass? Or just a bead? Hold that guess, because the answer is stranger. Lay it flat over a line of tiny writing. The letters underneath swell and grow. This lens magnifies about 3 times over. 3 times from a crystal ground before Rome existed. Not a smear, not a blur, but a clear enlarged image. Its focus falls about 11 centimeters beyond the curve. That is a real, working, measurable magnifier. Not a happy accident, but a usable optical tool. Made 2,000 years before the first eyeglasses. Before Rome, before Athens, before the Greek philosophers. So who ground it? And how? And above all, why? The Assyrians ruled the largest empire of their age. Their kings sat in Nimrud, a city of the Tigris. They tracked the stars and kept vast written libraries. They carved gold and gemstones with astonishing skill. Their scribes recorded eclipses and the paths of planets. But nowhere do they mention grinding a lens. Not one tablet explains this curved piece of quartz. The crystal itself is the only witness left. Rock crystal is quartz, and quartz is brutally hard. 7 on the hardness scale, it scratches steel. You cannot simply carve it like soft limestone. It must be ground down, slowly, with abrasive sand. Rubbed against harder grit for hour after hour. Days of steady grinding just to remove a fingernail of stone, turning a flat blank into a curved, gleaming lens, with no lathe, no dial, no measuring machine, only judgment, muscle, and endless repetition. Get the curve wrong, and weeks of work are ruined. Look at the grinding marks for 5 seconds. Find the exact tool that made them. Nobody has. Because the maker's method was never written down. No manual, no diagram, no apprentice's notes ever survived. It vanished with the workshop that made it. So what was this precise little lens actually for? The calmest answer is a craftsman's magnifier. Assyrian seal cutters carved unbelievably tiny scenes. Whole battles pressed into a stone the size of a thumb. Kings, chariots, and gods, all carved smaller than a nail. Such fine work strains even the sharpest young eyes. Some of their carvings are hard to read without a lens today. A 3 times lens would make that work possible. In that view, it is history's first reading glass, a quiet, practical tool with no magic about it. But a lens does something else in strong sunlight. It gathers the sun into one burning point. Aim that point at dry tinder, and it smolders. Hold it steady a moment longer, and the tinder bursts into flame. So some believe it was a fire starter, a sacred way to draw flame straight from the sky. Fire from light alone would look like pure magic. A priest who could call fire would hold real power. The museum itself leans on a plainer idea. They think the crystal was only decoration, an inlay, perhaps the staring eye of a statue. Its curve just a shape, its magnifying an accident. The surface, they note, is slightly uneven. Too rough, they argue, to be a true instrument. A decorated eye, they say, that happens to bend light. Then comes the boldest theory of them all. An Italian scholar named Pettinato studied the lens. He suggested it was part of a crude telescope. A lens like this, paired with another, sees the sky. And here, the Assyrian records turn very strange. Their scribes described Saturn ringed by coiling serpents, a planet wrapped in a ring, drawn as living snakes. It is an oddly specific thing to imagine, but Saturn's rings need a lens to ever be seen. With the naked eye, Saturn is just a dot of light. No ring, no shape, only a pale, wandering star. So how did they draw the rings, unless they looked? Through a lens, that dot resolves into something ringed. Suddenly, a coiled serpent around a god sounds less like myth. The full story runs far deeper than any single short video can hold. The books that document it are linked below. You can read them or listen free with the trial link in the description. Now, most historians reject that telescope idea. They say the serpents were myth, not measurement. A telescope needs two matched lenses, held just so. And one lens alone cannot prove a telescope existed. That caution is fair and probably correct. Still, pick up the crystal and hold it to the sun. Feel it warm. Watch your own fingerprints swell. Whatever they meant it for, it magnifies in your hand. Tilt it, and the world beneath it leaps closer. That simple fact refuses to go quietly away. We can measure the crystal down to the millimeter. We can map its curve and test how it bends light. We know it magnifies. We know it is ground. We know it is ancient. But its true purpose is lost to time. The maker carved his answer, then fell silent. 3,000 years of silence stand between us and him. No text survives to tell us what he intended. This is why the little lens unsettles people. It sits centuries ahead of where it belongs. Progress, we assume, marches in a straight line. The Nimrud lens quietly breaks that comfortable story. A technology that flickers on, then disappears. Knowledge found, then somehow completely forgotten. The empire fell, and its craft fell with it. In 612 BC, enemies stormed the Assyrian heartland. Nimrud was sacked and burned to the ground, the libraries charred, the workshops buried. Whatever the lens makers knew died in that fire. And the secret of the lens went into the dark. For 25 centuries it waited underground, until Layard's diggers lifted it back to light. Today it rests behind glass in a London gallery. Small enough to miss, easy to walk straight past. Yet it may be the oldest lens humans ever made. Scholars still argue over that single curved surface. Was it a tool, a toy, or a window on the sky? Every answer runs straight into the same wall. Nobody ever wrote it down, so nobody today can truly be sure. So stand with that oval of crystal in your mind. How did they grind quartz to a working curve? Why make a magnifier no other record mentions? And did any Assyrian eye ever turn it skyward? Was it a workshop tool or a window on the heavens? We can hold the object in our hands, yet never quite its meaning. The Nimrud lens is one of history's quiet shocks. A ground, polished, magnifying lens from 750 BC. Real, curved, and sitting 3,000 years too early. A lens that, by every rule, shouldn't exist. Subscribe now, and a new unsolved ancient mystery reaches you every single day. Tomorrow you decide what we dig into next. Option A, the stone wheel of 42,000 tons in the Golan. Option B, the tunnels said to run under all of Europe. Vote A or B in the comments, and the winner is the one we dig into tomorrow.